I'm doing all right. Just shutting down all my stuff that I have recording around the house, all my cameras and stuff. I always do. I'm always watching. Good to go. What do you want to talk about tonight? Yeah, come ahead. Because I can speak on the fly. I'm good like that.
All right, I think we're
I
live.
really, I really should give myself more credit and stop being so modest, right?
I know, right? So, what I was thinking we could talk about, one of the things I was thinking we could talk about is um, there was a post recently on Texas Free. Well, it was on Facebook, right? And
The
someone
Book of Faces.
someone posted a picture of a lodge that looked abandoned, and the question was, like, it was more of a statement, I think, than a question. But it was like, I guess,
Was that this weekend? I wish I could have seen it.
this weekend, maybe Friday. But it was a question or comment along the lines of, I guess the lodge doesn't meet here anymore. And someone's like, yeah, they still meet. They still meet here. They just, because from the street level, you see boarded up windows and stuff. But they weren't boarded up,
Yep.
but they were covered up with paper and stuff. And they're like, yeah, the bottom floor is a business or something. They put papers to keep people from looking or something. I don't know. And there was a comment on the post that said, it's I actually got to pull it up because it's I want to be sure I'm getting this right. But it was basically, it's not the
Cool.
lodge, that it's not the building that makes the lodge, right? Or something along those lines.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's as bad as it's the internal, not the external.
well, yeah, same mentality, right?
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I made the comment. It wasn't a very popular comment, but my thought was, no one wants to petition a building. No one wants to petition a lodge if at first glance it looks abandoned, right? If
Right.
if if
If
random
it's
people on
dilapidated
Facebook,
outside, it's probably dilapidated inside.
yes, if random people on Facebook drive by, Masons that are knowledgeable drive by, and it appears to be abandoned or demised or merged or whatever, then how does it look to non Masons? Is no one's gonna look
Right.
at this like, man, I'm gonna join that. That's something I want to be a part of.
Right. Yeah, that's something that I just have such a hard time with. You drive around and all these people are so proud of having their buildings that they let them run down instead of raising their dues to pay for them.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, like I don't think fundraisers is your way to subsidize low dues. So let me just put that
Mm-mm.
out there. But I do acknowledge, if you have a large building, and if you have people that are quote unquote renting your building, like appendant bodies and stuff, you can that should and can and should be included in the budget, right? As far as income for the lodge. So if
Right.
you have X amount of lodges sharing a building, and your chapters of council, commandery, grottos, whatever sharing that building, yeah, that should be baked into your budget before you calculate the dues, if that makes sense. But a lot of lodges don't have that. And if you don't
Right.
have that, then you should come pretty close to covering your operating costs with your dues.
I wouldn't, me personally, I would not do that.
Would not do what?
And here's why. I would not calculate that into my dues, the dues factor, because having those appendant bodies are not guaranteed. So having renters is never guaranteed. So what happens when you lose your renters? Then
Well,
it's
that's
up to you to
true.
pay the bills.
That's true.
And
But having
so
having
me
members isn't necessarily guaranteed either. I mean, there's no
and that's why
guarantees in any of
your
this.
that's why your dues need to reflect that.
Yeah. I'm
You
trying to
know,
find
that's
that post, and I can't find it now. I wonder if it was taken down.
and you know I'm gonna talk about something that, I've been confronted with here recently. Um, we were looking for a place to meet, and right now, um,
Who's been?
this,
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's been looking for a place to meet?
my Scottish Rite Club,
Got you.
and right now, we're just now trying to build up our membership and all that kind of stuff, and they've been demised for, I wouldn't say demised, but just not meeting for the last 2-3 years since COVID hit 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just now making it happen again. And so we're trying to build up membership and all that. And the lodges that we've talked to, of course, they want to be paid for the time that we're there, which I get it. I understand. But they want more than we can really afford right now, because we don't have the membership in the club that will support it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the members in the club is like, well, I just don't understand. We're all Masons. They should just let us, use the building. I've never heard about that. And then we just give a donation of what we can give. And I'm thinking, well, they have bills, they have lights, they have wear and tear on the building when we're there. I mean, it's not unfair for a lodge to ask for money.
No, I agree.
But there's a lot of brothers out there that feel that very same way, that the building's already there. Wouldn't you rather have people coming to your building a lot more, utilizing it instead of it being an empty building? That way you get better advertising, people see that people are there, blah blah blah. And I don't believe in that. I think that we should be supporting our buildings and doing the things that we need to do to help with the upkeep. If maybe it would be and one of them said, okay, we only want this much per meeting, but twice a year we want you to either pay $100 or get somebody to clean the building.
Mm-hmm.
That seems pretty fair.
I heard. Go ahead.
But this feeling is still the same with some of the other brothers. That it's just it's not practicing brotherly love and stuff like that. And I disagree with that. I think that we absolutely should. And I think both of the offers of two of these buildings were very fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's out of our reach right now because we're just starting, and I can't take on another bill for Freemasonry. I take on enough already.
So I heard a really interesting formula, because I'm a member of a building that's been thinking about what they should be charging their tenants basically, and the formula is when I heard it, it's like that really makes a lot of sense. It's not X amount per month or per quarter. It's X amount within whatever time parameters you want, but it's per member. So if you have 10 members versus a body with 100 members, they're going to be paying the lodge a smaller amount because they're a smaller body, right? And so as they grow, they're going to be paying more, but it's also on the members themselves to foot the bill. You just kind of bake it into the dues. So if you say,
right. Well, there's no dues in a Scottish Rite Club.
Well, okay, hold on. Stop worshiping the devil, you Jews. We're Jewish, apparently. It's been a while. It's been a while since we had that. It's been a while. I was actually thinking about that today. I was like, man, it's been a while since we had a nut come on. But thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We know we're on the right.
Yeah, and it's all caps too, so this
awesome.
This is legit. But yeah,
that's crazy.
It wouldn't apply for like clubs, I guess, but like a pendant.
That's crazy that they would put Jews in with worshiping the devil. That's just an oddball statement in itself. That's just a total nut job. Oh, that's so funny.
I mean, I see that a lot. David Lawson, he says, I had a dinner with a past Grandmaster a few weeks ago, and that subject he came up. He said, anytime a Masonic body uses another lodge facility, there's a fiscal responsibility that goes along with it. Oh, I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Exactly. I agree too.
There's bills regardless of who's using it. And that, you're running out of electricity, you're using the water, you're putting wear and tear on the building. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I do too. And that's the way it should be. And, just for now, we don't have the membership to support it to be able to do that yet. So we're meeting at restaurants right now, which I enjoy better anyways, to be honest with you. I'd rather be in a back room somewhere talking about Freemasonry, and being able to eat and drink whatever I want to while I'm doing it.
You don't have,
as opposed to being in a lodge to where I have to conform to somebody else's rules.
Yeah. You don't have anyone handcuffing you to certain outdated mentalities.
Right.
Dev McLean says, "Oh yeah, I've seen some of the comments on your older videos. Some crazy out there. Oh, dude, we still get it. We still get it daily. I was back and forth with some guy just for fun over the last 2 days on some comments. It happens all the time. TikTok too. Like I post random stuff on TikTok when I go to lodges and stuff. It's just, and you can't. There's no helping these people. I mean,
right?
They they have their mind made up, and if you're a Mason, you're a liar. And in fact, the specific one, I don't remember what the accusations were, but he or she did their research. Right? They did their research, and I'm like, how many lodges have you actually visited, and how many actual Masons have you talked to? They're like, well, what would that accomplish? What would that prove? You just lie anyway. It's like, that's not how research works. That's
right. That's funny.
You have to go in with an unbiased opinion. These people.
That's my kind of guy right there. Yeah. Awesome.
These ideas of research. Yeah, it's just whatever you find on some conspiracy forum. That's their research.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, that's well, we were talking about the same thing last week, that it's all because of somebody's religious dogma, that somebody told them how to believe, and so they believe that way. Mm-hmm. And now because we don't conform to what they think God is or whatever, then we're the devil. Yeah, if you're not their God, then you're the devil.
You got a lot of people that can't think for themselves.
Yeah.
What's it called? It's escaping my mind. There is a theory out there. It's not a conspiracy theory. Well, I guess you could say it is, but it's like almost like a physics theory, and that is like oh gosh, I don't remember what it's actually called, but it's basically saying that there's like what is it? Basically, the deeper you go into physics, and this is almost like a hermetic thing too. The deeper you go into the physics, the more it appears as though reality is not real, if that makes sense. There's a specific name for it. I can't think of it now, but anyway, there's like reality is not real, and so part of like a side belief of this, the people that agree to this, that have this mentality like reality is just kind of being fabricated, is that a lot of the people that you encounter aren't real either. They're just part of the illusion, right? And like
it's the Matrix theory, basically.
It's like a Matrix, but I can't. But the game,
because
like
it's all created in your mind.
People that play a lot of games refer to them as NPCs, non-player characters. It basically, like, there's a handful of people that are real, that are actual real people that live in this reality. But then you have a lot of other people that are just part of the illusion, part of the program, whatever you'll call it. And where I'm going with this is you have people that they cannot process thoughts, right? No matter what you tell them,
they're that character that's in the screen, on the screen, going like this.
Yeah, they have their they have their script, they have their program, and they cannot deviate from that no matter what. And I mean, that's just what it reminds me of every time, because you have these people and you can't debate them. You can't convince them to see anything other than what they already think, because that's their programming. They're programmed to believe that, and there's no way that you could ever convince them to go outside of that, ever.
Right. Well, and the sad part of it is that we've let a lot of those people into the fraternity.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things I firmly believe is that we'll never get rid of the masses who choose to be ignorant to the truths of Freemasonry.
Yep.
You know, it's always going to happen, and the reason why is because you have the lodges that feel that way. They bring people in that feel that are prone to feeling that way, and then they indoctrinate. Is that the word? Indoctrinate.
Indoctrinate. Yeah.
Yeah. They indoctrinate their narrative so that they think that's what Freemasonry is, because that's their only experience. They don't travel. They don't go anywhere else to see, you know, what's happening around the world. And, you know, it's a sad thing. And it's not just in Texas. We see a lot of it in Texas because we're such a huge, grand jurisdiction compared to all the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it happens everywhere. And it has been happening everywhere.
I agree. It's a poor job of guarding the West Gate.
Yeah. And, you know, the sad thing is, in some instances, in some lodges, it may be that they are doing a great job at guarding the West Gate, but their West Gate is a different mindset than my West Gate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not.
You know,
for a lot of people, it's non-existent.
Right, or that they're looking for that person that can be indoctrinated in that one in their narrative of what they think Freemasonry is, which is, you know, fish fries and kumbaya. It's the internal, not the external. You know, that's so. I don't know. Those are always tough ones, and I'm sure I'll never get to be Grand Master now that I've, you know, started getting on the show and speaking my mind, because I don't want to be the kumbaya crowd.
Yep, it's my fault I did it to you, man.
You indoctrinated.
You drank the Kool-Aid.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Like in Woodstock when they made the announcement, "Don't take the brown acid, man." Yeah, that's a thing. I know you're young. You probably didn't know.
You were probably there, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. If it's a brown, probably wouldn't be good no matter what it is, unless it's a brownie.
Right.
But anyway,
you know, that reminds me of a post this week that I replied to, and it's so funny to me. I'll post in reply to something,
mm-hmm.
and it's pretty controversial usually when I reply, or maybe not controversial. Well, it's always pretty controversial because that's what I post on, is controversial subjects, right?
Of course.
But I'm very straightforward, very direct, and very serious about my answers. I'm not trying to troll anybody. I'm just telling you, look, this is exactly what I believe, and I'm not afraid to say it in front of anybody else. Well, I had like 10 people text me and message me, "Man, right on." They all copied that post and sent it to me and said, "Man, this is what needed to be said." All that kind of stuff, because they're afraid to say it online, on the line. But you know, one of the things that was spoken on the web is another person saying something about the young guys coming in and having the wrong expectations and of the what's in it for me attitude. That's what it is.
Oh, I saw that.
Okay.
I saw that.
And
did you not see my response?
No, I hadn't been on it in 4 days. I hadn't looked at the book of faces for a while.
Yeah.
But but the reality is that every one of us join for our own benefit.
Well, of course.
We're not joining because we want to be martyrs in this world. I don't want to be Saint Denis. There's already a Saint Denis. They don't need another one, and I'll definitely never fit that bill. I joined because I want to grow internally as well as externally, because anytime you strengthen the health of your insides, it's going to show on the outsides, right?
I agree.
And I think it's extremely naive to say that anyone is not joining any fraternity, any organization, without ulterior motives of what's in it for me.
I agree.
If it's not going to benefit me, why am I going to waste my time doing it?
Well, I mean,
I'm not the cattle. I'm not the herd.
What's the hook that we try to get people with, right? We take good men and make them better. Well,
right.
The idea being, I want to become a better man. Right. I mean, that's
exactly.
No, my comment was, I'll pull that one up. Actually, let's talk about this one real quick, and then I'll pull it up as we're discussing it. So it's a lodge, and I mean it looks abandoned, right? This is what we were talking about earlier, like the abandoned looking lodge.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a picture of the front, and like the windows are blotted out, the sidewalk's overgrown. There's no sign. I mean, it's just like abandoned building. And the comment was, "That's how a lot of rural lodges look. Remember, it's not about the building." It's like it is. Don't complain. Like, it's not about the building, but when they go to lodge and they sit there in their meetings, they complain that no one's joining. Right?
Yeah. So, if it's not about the building, then why don't you just sell the building?
Exactly. Yeah.
And meet on top of a pub somewhere.
Or just merge. If it's not about the building, just merge.
Just merge. Give up your building and merge.
Yep.
Demise. Whatever you got to do.
But they won't.
Yeah, that's always funny when people say stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if somebody believes that, but it is stupid in my opinion. It's okay. Ignorant.
You can say it how it is.
Yeah. I'm not going to live in a house, and a nasty ass house, and say, "Oh, but the inside is beautiful." I don't subscribe to that cartoon world. Like, there used to be a Mickey Mouse cartoon where this guy would creep up with his cane and look all poor and wretched with all these holy clothes and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And he walks into his house, and all of a sudden the whole living room flips over, and it's this elegant dining place and all this. He takes off the sash that he has on and has a tuxedo on underneath, but on the outside it looks like a crap hole. Right? I don't live in that world.
Yeah.
I'd be embarrassed if somebody drove by my house and thought that I lived in a situation like that.
Well, apparently that's elitist to think like that. And while I'm looking for the post I was going to make, I mean, the search function on this thing sucks so bad. It's only showing my post. I don't remember what the post was now. But I was actually thinking about this earlier today. It's like, because we had and I'm looking as I talk, we had a worshipful master last year that donated a lot of meals. Like, he had them catered to the lodge.
Right.
And people.
That's what my worshipful master did in Goliad last year.
And people still complained about the fancy meals, right? That's his thing, the fancy meals. And it's like, first of all, you can't find a fancy meal anywhere in Hill County. I'm sorry, right? I'm just being frank here. And also,
I'd rather you be Justin.
95% of the people that ate didn't put anything in the donation jar anyway, so they ate for free. Wow. Now, the thing is, and this is what I was actually wondering, because I have kids with allergies, and so we eat pretty healthy, but we've always ate pretty healthy before we even had kids. Even when we didn't really have money, right? But if like getting a meal catered from a local Mexican restaurant or something like that is considered fancy, then it's like these nasty ass green chili dogs. Is that the norm? Is that what people normally eat? Is that
what they do at home?
Is that how normal people? I mean, I say normal people because I guess I'm not normal because I don't eat things like that. Is that a typical meal? Is that what people usually eat? Stuff like that?
Right.
I just don't get it. I don't
You know,
understand this mentality.
it's kind of sad because so many people do eat like that. And yeah, it's kind of sad.
Um,
I don't understand why anybody would complain about leveling up in your lodge. If you can do it, if you can afford to do it and do it, why not?
yeah, it's a lot of things that people complained about last year are still going on, but now it's completely fine because it's different people, right? Different
Yeah.
leadership. So
Yeah.
it's just very frustrating to see the duality, right? The two sides, the hypocrisy that we subject ourselves to. Yeah, I can't find the post
Right.
now, so it's gone. What was the post? What were we talking about that I said I was going to look up? Do you remember? Because I'm just looking for posts I made, like comments.
I can't remember. You talked about that one with the building, and then we talked about the one that I had posted on
Yeah.
that I had replied to
I can't find it now, but
about the internal versus the external,
well,
and
no, it was the
the
one.
what's in it for me thing.
Yeah, well, I'll just summarize what it was that I said, and that is that basically, we promise a certain level of value, right? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody asking the lodge to actually deliver on that value that they promise. Like if you say you're gonna make
Right.
them better, make us better, right? It's not selfish to want an organization to actually follow up on its promises.
Right. Well, and that's another thing is that we sell this idea, this nostalgia of all of our forefathers were Freemasons and people who built the country and the state. This is which I truly believe that if it was in fact Masons that did it, that planned it within their inner circles, then that if that's the case, then this is the new world. We are living in the new world order because that is what it would have been, right? But what's pathetic is that we we highlight and emphasize those brothers from the past, and yet once we get into the lodge, you don't see any brothers like that in most lodges because the shakers and the movers in the world go into the lodge and they see that there's no value to them, that instead of being elevated, they're going to be lowered,
Mm-hmm.
and they walk away. They walk away. It's just some of us are idiots and just want to fight it because we have this legacy that we feel like we need to keep fighting for. But I mean, that's kind of how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, Justin. Yeah, that was another post. We mentioned that one. Yeah, who'd want to petition abandoned lodge? Yeah, or one that looks abandoned. I mean, sorry.
Yep. I did another post. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead. I insist.
Is it on the same subject? Because I was.
It's a separate subject.
Oh, okay. Well, I did another post that from a. Well, go ahead and do your different subject. I'm going to look it up so I get it right.
Okay. So I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna mention any locations or anything like this, and it kind of pisses me off. So I'm gonna be very careful about what I say. But I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Okay.
If a lodge has its dues and its bylaws, any change to your dues is a bylaws change. If a lodge,
unless they petition to have these SOPs, you can petition to have SOPs separate from the bylaws, and then it's not a change to the bylaws. You just update the SOPs and turn it in.
well, this is not
But
the case.
yes,
This is
technically,
not the case. This is
yeah.
not the
If
case.
it's in the bylaws, then yeah, you're right.
So if a lodge voted to send out letters that they were going to discuss raising the dues at the next stated meeting, I believe the law book says that they have like 15 days to send the letters out. If the lodge does not send the letters out that the lodge voted to have the conversation about,
Uh-huh.
and then the letters don't get sent out, and the meeting's like tomorrow, for
Then it has
example.
to carry over to the next month.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I understand. I just think that's I think if the lodge votes to do something, it should happen, right?
Right.
And you have I believe there's such thing as incompetence and there's intentional incompetence, right? Where
Right.
you
Right.
you intentionally fumble where things just don't get done, right? Because you don't want things to get done, and
Right.
that's what I'm seeing, and it's
Yeah.
extremely frustrating. It's not Masonic at all. It's extremely frustrating because I'm a very straightforward by the book person. If the lodge votes to do something, regardless of how you interpret it after the fact, right? Like, oh, it's Labor Day, or oh, I don't want to send it out yet, or oh, we couldn't find the addresses or something. No, the lodge voted, and it happens one way or the other, right?
Right.
And so it's just
Well, the addresses are in Grandview. They're all in there.
they should be.
That's
I
not a
agree.
good excuse.
I,
Yeah.
I, I agree, and even that, like, it's a new secretary. Like, you could have reached out to the previous secretary, who got all that together and refined the list. It's just it took them a month just to write the letter because it got revised and stuff. It's like, it doesn't take a month to write a letter. It
Right.
doesn't. It doesn't. It's just it's it's very frustrating to me. I guess I'm venting more than having a conversation here. But it's very frustrating to me because the lodge actually voted after a 3 month conversation. Letters weren't sent out. So I understand that. And so the lodge voted back in, I believe, in just January to go ahead and raise. Might have been late last year, but I want to think it was around the beginning of the year. But to raise the dues. And then a brother showed up at the next meeting and pointed out that letters weren't sent out, so we really couldn't raise the dues. So, okay, fair. That's fair. But they also, so let me back up. The lodge voted unanimously in January to raise the dues, and I was proud of them because it was a big jump. And the next month, a brother showed up, pointed out that the letter hadn't been sent out, and not only that, but moved that the conversation get pushed to like July. And the lodge voted.
Why in the hell would they do that unless they were trying to stack the books because they planned on having other people in the office to try and screw everything up?
Yeah, indeed. Why? And so the lodge almost unanimously voted to pass that instead.
Oh my gosh.
So I know it's very frustrating. And then so when July came around, the conversation of dues came up, and they voted to table it until August. And so it came up in August, and they said they're going to send the letter out. And here it is, September, and the letter hasn't got sent out.
if I belonged to that lodge, I would demit from it.
You'd be what?
I would demit from that lodge if I belonged to that lodge. That happened.
I'm going
to. Yeah, that's just a bunch of crap. And then as soon as I demitted, I would tell everybody why. All this stupid crap that was going on.
Yeah. But that's my plan, because I worked really hard. Me and a handful of guys worked really hard to get this lodge, because financially it has no future. It has no future.
Right.
And worked really hard with a handful of guys to get this lodge in a viable place. And they circled the wagons. That's what it was. And I've been talking about this on and off for a few months now. Like, there's a time when you just gotta like walk away. So
right. Well, and this post that I had written, it kind of falls into that.
Yeah. So Justin, David Lawson says, "Where in the law book is this?" I'm not. Where is what? What specifically are you asking about? I might be able to find it for you.
He's probably asking about that you have to send out letters for the dues change.
Yeah, I think it's only if you have it in your bylaws, and it probably falls more under like bylaws changes than dues. Because if you don't have it in your bylaws, you can just vote and your dues are changed. You just let Grand Lodge know.
Yeah. Well, it has to be. Well, if it's not in the actual bylaws, it has to be in the SOPs. But your lodge would have had to have petitioned to have your SOPs separate from your bylaws, standard operating procedures separate from your bylaws. That became available 4 or 5 years ago. I think they made that option to where you could do that. And then once you do that, then it's just a straight up vote of whoever's there, and you can change the SOPs. But if it's in your bylaws, anything in your bylaws you have to mail it out that there's going to be a big vote to change the bylaws, and then give people an opportunity to come in the next month before you have the vote. Yeah, it's a thing.
He's asking about the letter.
Yeah, that's true. It has to be done. If it's SOPs, you don't. If it's in the bylaws itself, you do, because they're two separate entities.
Let me look here. I got a PDF of the Grand Lodge.
Well, ooh,
I'm so fancy like that.
Got that and the monitor.
Of course, it's outdated. I need to get a more up-to-date version.
Oh, mine's 2023. So, in that lines, well, on everything that we were talking about so far, I'll say this. It was said that poverty, whether intellectual or material, can consume the resources of any nation. I'll repeat that. It was said that poverty, whether intellectual or material, can consume the resources of any nation. Mm-hmm. Then I put, we should work toward freeing ourselves from poverty. And don't be fooled. This is not recent. We are suffering from generational poverty. First, by educating ourselves, then we may be smart enough to stop choking the life out of ourselves financially.
Interesting.
Drop the mic. So that was a quote that I said at first, that I put on there at first, and then those other thoughts were mine. But that's exactly right. That
Are you there?
Having intellectual poverty is far more serious than material poverty, because if you're poor minded, you're going to end up being poor materially as well, financially and materially. There's just no getting around it. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that in our case, the best instance, it was probably 10 years ago, people really started talking about generational poverty mm-hmm. as a real thing. And for those of you who don't really know what I'm talking about, generational poverty is where you have people who grow up in a system that relies on welfare as a source of income, instead of being something to help them to get over the hump until they start doing well on their own, right? So these people, they not only do they live on welfare all their lives, but their children grow up knowing that as soon as they're able to, they should have children so that they can get welfare for their child as well, and increase their money coming into their poor household. That's generational poverty. And it's really a disease of the mind, because they've told themselves that they're no good and they can't be any better. And so for generations, it continues on.
Yeah.
They keep telling the next generation that they're poor, and they'll always be poor. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, they also justify like money is the root of all evil, right? So I'm poor, but it's okay because money's the root of all evil. And then they raise their kids with that same mentality. Right.
Well, and so I truly believe that that's the situation that we've gotten into in our lodges. Back in 29 was the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. In that era, anyways, I wasn't alive then, so I can't remember the dates. I'm not a historian. But after the Great Depression, right, they stopped raising dues with the lodges. Mm-hmm. They capped them with most of the lodges so that people could become, could keep up their membership, because everybody, were broke at the time. Well, that started a, a terrible trajectory of where the lodges went from there, having this mentality that they can't raise the dues or it's going to keep people out. And we've lived in that ever since.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it happened. And there's a specific time in Grand Lodge where they decided to do that. And it wasn't just ours, it was all over the nation. It was a thing. And at that very moment, it kickstarted our generational poverty. And we've been on that trajectory ever since. And now we've got to change the mindset, the culture of our lodges so that we don't stay in that. Because if we don't educate ourselves, we're never going to be able to get out of that situation.
It's okay to want nice things, right? It's okay to have nice things, and I think there's a lot of us that disagree with that, right? For different reasons, but I look at it like this, and without going to like religious, too religious or anything, but there's more wealth in the just in the solar system, more wealth than combined that anyone on like all of mankind has ever achieved, right? There's like it's almost infinite how much wealth is just in our solar system. I'm talking about like raw materials, things like that. If you look at the whole universe, it's mind blowing. Why would, let's just go from like a God perspective, right? Why would a God who would create all this stuff that humans will probably never touch not be willing to bless you with abundance if you ask for it, right? If you sought it out. It's there floating in space where no one's ever going to ever touch it. So why do people have this mentality like they're not worthy? Right? There's dead rocks. Right. There's dead rocks in space with more gold than there is on Earth. Why would you not be worthy to have some of that abundance? Right? It's okay. It's okay to have nice things. It's okay to make money. It's okay to have a nice house and want nice things and have a nice place where you and your brothers can go and hang out, enjoy yourselves, and practice fellowship. And why is it not okay to have another nice place that's definitely not a Masonic lodge where you can sit and have a cigar, if that's your thing, have a glass of scotch if that's your thing, and enjoy each other's company without being handcuffed,
ridiculed
or criticized.
Yeah, that one time when I was younger, somebody told me, "Oh, I don't want to work any more overtime or I'll have to pay more in taxes." And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I would rather pay taxes than not pay taxes. If I'm paying a lot of taxes, it means I'm doing pretty dang good in life.
I've known people like that where you talk about, if I did this, I can make more money. They're like, yeah, but you're going to pay more taxes. And I'm like,
right.
If it was such a like an inverse relationship, you would never have billionaires and millionaires, because the more money they make, they just get they're pushed down with taxes. That's not how it works. Yeah. It's okay to pay. I'd rather pay more taxes and have nicer things instead of live in poverty and pay nothing.
Well, yeah, and if you're smart enough, you know how to leverage your assets to where you don't pay as much in taxes, and you come out even better. And that's where the top, I would say even 10% live is in that. It used to be that it was the top 1% that could do that, but I've realized that we're in a position now to where, especially with as many small businesses as there are in this world or in this nation, how many people utilize that mentality to help themselves?
Yeah.
They say that they're, most of our gross domestic product comes from small business, not from the large corporations.
Yeah.
And I can see that because, like in Goliad, we have a Dairy Queen, a Whataburger. We have three chains
That's a
in.
Texas town right there, man.
Hell yeah,
Does it have
hell
Bucky's
yeah.
too?
No, we've got a Texan. It's called the Texan.
Oh, okay.
But we do have Tractor Supply and two feed stores. But you know, that put aside. So the Tractor Supply, that's the only actual big corporation that's in our town.
Mm-hmm.
The Whataburgers and the Dairy Queens are all franchised, and now you've that particular franchise of the Dairy Queen, they have 5 different Dairy Queens, but they're still a small business. And if you think about it, that's how it is in just about every city. You don't have major corporations in every city. So that's your gross domestic product right there. Going well, at least in the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that's they're not 1%ers, and they pay more in taxes. But then they also leverage assets to where they don't have to pay as much in taxes.
Yeah,
they're smart enough to try and keep what they can.
So we got some comments here. Let's go through them real quick. Yeah. So David, I was actually looking through the law book, doing a search. I was doing it pretty quickly because I know we're talking. I couldn't find anything about letters or really about the time frame for bylaws changes or anything. I've had enough people tell me it's in there, but I don't remember where I saw it.
It may be in the bylaws.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I'll have to look it up. But I know that's a requirement. I know it is for bylaws.
David Lawson says, when I joined, I was in it for me, and the older mentors gave as much as I wanted. I want the new Masons to be in it for themselves, and at some point down their journey, they get more light for themselves. Yeah, yes. And I think you have to be in. You have to be in it for yourself. Like when you get to a point where you can. I think that for everybody, even if you, I can't talk this evening. I'm sorry. I think even if you're not a Mason, right? As far as personal development goes, you have to be in it for yourself till you can get to a point where you can give. Because if you're not in a position financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever, to help support other people, then you can't do that. So you have to build yourself up before you can lift other people. You can't lift people higher than you are, if that makes sense.
Right.
So Justin Hershida says, I don't think a lodge should be able to raise dues without giving notice of pending proposal and vote date to give everyone a chance to vote. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to do that.
If it's in the bylaws, yes. If it's SOPs, no. I don't think that anybody who doesn't come to lodge regularly has any right to bitch about what the members that are there trying to support the lodge is deciding. Because if you're not there walking through the trenches with me, why do you have a say-so on what's going to happen with that building if you don't care enough to even show up? Now, I know that there's certain situations where people can't show up for whatever reason, but when it comes to 10% of your membership only showing up for lodge, that's a problem.
If you have 100 members and say 15 of those guys are regulars, right? Those are your stakeholders. Those are the stakeholders of the lodge. And you could say, well, it's not fair to raise dues without these other guys knowing.
And we're not trying to beat you up, brother. We're just
I'm
making our point. I just want to say that.
I agree that it's fair to let them know. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think it's just a Masonic thing to do. Say, hey, we're talking about raising your dues in the next meeting. If this is something you want to have a conversation about, you need to be here, right? But also, those people that don't show up, like you send a letter out or whatever, they don't show up. They never. If you haven't seen them in 4 or 5 years and they still don't show up after you send the letter, but they show up after the dues are raised to complain, I'm sorry. You have options. You can go find a cheaper lodge.
Right.
And even if you put, even if your bylaws did not include your dues, where you could just vote and raise your dues. I still think it's in everyone's best interest to let them
ethical.
know. It's ethical to be
Right.
sure that you sent the letter out. But as
I
far
agree.
but even then, if you send the letter out, and someone shows up that you have never seen, you've been a member of this lodge for 4 or 5 years, and this guy shows up you've never seen before to complain about it, I'm really going to take it with a grain of salt because he's not a stakeholder. Now, if it's someone's like, hey, we got such and such brother, he is he had a stroke.
Let's say he's in a nursing home.
Well, we actually had it like this. There was a brother who sent a letter with a check. He's like, hey, just to let you know, this is the last time I'm going to pay dues. I had a stroke in the 90s, and I can't do anything or anything like that. I haven't been to lodge since the 90s. I cannot leave the house. So I'm going to pay dues, but this is probably the last time I'm going to pay it. And so we just remitted his dues. Like, we have options. You can a lodge has options if you have someone in that position.
Well, you can give them a lifetime membership,
You can.
and
That's another option.
And
I'm
and
not
the lodge
suggesting
picks up their
if
per capita.
If someone can't for whatever reason, right? If they say, hey, I lost my job and I've been unemployed for 6 months, we can remit their dues. If they're like, I had a stroke and I can't leave the house. I mean, even if I could go, even if I could afford it, I don't get value out of the lodge because I can't go. A lodge has options, right? But if you just have someone that just shows up and just red-faced, complaining, talking about whatever, they don't want to pay it, I'm sorry. And I've seen this. I'm sorry. I mean, it's you're not here, and then they leave anyway. It's
Right. Well, they're not there to see how bad it is. They're not there trying to push through the struggle of supporting that lodge with the few dollars that are there, and then they show up and act all high and mighty. No way, man.
Yeah, just angry. But
yeah, that's ignorance.
Well, and people show up like that angry, and then they admit the lodge is better for it anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, but to your point, you are right. I mean, really, it's the right thing to do to send notice out. It really is.
Yeah.
And even though you don't have to with SOPs, it's the right thing to do, and there's no reason why not to. If you're legitimately doing it on the up and up, why not?
I don't
if
think
you're not trying to snake something in, then why not?
I don't think there's such a thing as too much communication, right? I think there's a lot of lodges that do too little communication, but I don't think there's any harm in reaching out to people and saying, "Hey, we're going to have this conversation." Right. And in fact,
now I wouldn't go ahead.
If that's the only time you're reaching out, if the only time you're reaching out to your members is to let them know you're raising dues or to send them a dues notice, that's a problem, right? So you should definitely take the opportunities to reach out to your brothers whenever you can.
Yeah, we have mail, we have email, and we have a phone tree that we use. We have 3 different ways that we reach out to our membership, and we also post some stuff on Facebook. But I don't like using Facebook as my go-to for getting stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
But those other 3 are solid. So we utilize those ways of doing it.
Well, I think for probably 50 and younger, it's good to put it on Facebook because they're on there. But don't rely on that as your sole means, because you do have a lot of brothers that are on Facebook, and also it's just probably the most appropriate way.
And what happens? And then what happens if your account gets shut down for whatever reason that you're not in control of because you're just rented space with Facebook? So then you're screwed trying to get your word out to people. I think there ought to be multiple ways for every lodge to.
Well, if there's an event and someone doesn't know about it, and you say, "Well, I posted it on Facebook," well, I mean, sure, you made an attempt, but it wasn't like the best attempt. But if you say, "Hey, I sent letters out to everybody," then so either your address isn't up to date or you didn't open your mail.
Well, that's just like the secretary saying I didn't have addresses and never looking in the address book.
Yeah, no, that's just an excuse.
Right. I was going to say one thing I wouldn't do though in that letter is I wouldn't put a dollar amount on any dues in a letter. I would just say we're going to have the discussion. If this is something that matters to you, show up.
Mm-hmm.
Every Mason has 1 vote.
Yeah,
every Master Mason has 1 vote.
I wouldn't commit to a dollar amount in a letter. Because who
No,
knows?
never.
Go. The whole point is a discussion. You're having a discussion.
Right.
So why would you put a dollar
And if
amount?
it's not important enough for them to come, unless they hear a dollar amount, then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Facebook is great, but it's not. This is here, Justin. Facebook is great, but it's not personal. Members pay dues. They expect pen and paper. I agree. I agree. And if your dues don't, if your dues can't cover that, that's there we go. That conversation again.
right. That's the reason why you need it. If you can't afford postage, here's your sign.
I got a letter. I don't
I just
remember-
stole that. I just stole that from.
I think
so
it, I
bad.
think it was for AMD. Maybe it was a letter, and it was like a nice thick, almost like a cardstock envelope, and it had a wax seal.
Ooh.
It's like that is fancy. That is nice. And it's like, man, if I got something like that, I would know that my organization was legit. Just saying.
Right. I send that out to some people sometimes,
Mhm.
just because I want them to know that it's a special occasion.
In fact, I
And-
kept the seal. I peeled the wax off and kept. I don't know where it's at now, but it's like this is cool because it had like square and cups and everything. I
Yep.
kept the whole
Yep.
thing. So,
Yeah, I
that's
mean
sweet.
it shows that you care enough about the presentation for them. It's just like, so anybody who would enjoy a wax seal, going old school, I'm sure they would enjoy a nice looking lodge as well,
Mhm.
because it's something special. If it's something special, treat it special.
Yeah, I agree. And if you don't treat it special, if you don't think it's special, you won't treat it special, and people coming in won't think it's special either, or they'll drive by
Right.
and think it's abandoned. 'Cause
Right.
It definitely
Oh
won't
my
look
gosh.
special. Yeah,
I would never. Yeah.
but yeah. So
Yeah, that's funny. I would be on. The bad thing about me is when I see buildings like that, I actually go online to see, who the owner is in case I want to buy it. That's, one of my sources of income. So I'm always on the lookout. But that would be funny. Getting a letter to the lodge. I
Rock-
see that you're all but shut down. Are you still in business? I can help you. I buy properties.
Jason Rockenberg says he was gifted a wax seal by Guadalupe's lodge's outgoing master. He used it to send out annual returns to Grand Lodge. That's cool. It's just little
Nice.
things. Details matter, man. Details matter. And it's the small things. The small
Yeah.
things that make the most impression, I think. A wax seal is a small detail, but it matters.
Right. Well, and the only paper that I use is the thick semi-gloss paper. Not semi-gloss, but it's a little bit.
Mhm.
It's like a nicer paper than regular paper, the cheap stuff that you buy for $17 for a case.
Yeah.
Mine, I guess, is about $10 for a package, but it's thicker. Anytime I do a presentation at a lodge and I give the presentation to the secretary, they automatically look at it. Wow, because it's special to me. So that's the only paper I use, because if I'm going to print it out, then I think it's important.
Justin Hershia says he got a coin from my brother who sealed the envelope with wax, and he used his Masonic ring to stamp it.
Oh, very cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I agree. Like the quality of paper makes a big difference.
Yeah, I've actually been looking for an insignia ring myself.
A wax seal is like a suit in lodge. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a wax seal is nice, right? It's a step above. Just like a
Well,
suit.
if you receive a letter with a wax seal, wouldn't you feel like, it's more important? Wouldn't you feel like, whatever entity sent you that letter, they felt like it was important, and so it may increase the value within your mind
whenever
subconsciously?
whenever I first became a Master Mason, I got a letter from Grand Lodge, right, from Grand Lodge of Texas, and I was very excited. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be The Grand Lodge is sending me a letter. Like this is a big deal. No,
Right.
they're just asking for money and trying to sell me something. And
Right.
so now, whenever I get a letter, I just because I mean that's just it is what it is. But if I got a letter from Grand Lodge and it had a wax seal on it, holy crap! This is the real deal now. Why is Grand Lodge sending me a
Yeah.
letter with a wax seal? It's the same thing with the lodge. Like if you just send people mass produced letters, I mean that's part of the thing. You kind of have to do that sometimes. But if you are inviting people, say like you're doing like a summons to a meeting, and you want to be sure people saw it and do something special and important, put that wax seal on that bad boy. Use some higher quality paper and envelope. Let's say you're doing an event, for example, like a lodge event, and you want to be sure people show up. Put a little extra time and money into it. Higher quality cardstock, stamp, like a wax seal. Mail that bad boy off. You'll get a lot more people show up, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There's something to be said
I agree.
about that.
Agreed.
What else you got on the docket? What kind of questions do we have? What other questions do we have?
It's the usual suspects tonight. It's the usual
Nice.
suspects. Aside from that one paranoid dude. Other
Is
than
he
that,
still on?
I don't know. It doesn't say who's in chat unless they say something. So I don't know if
Oh,
they're still
okay.
on or not. We got 9 viewers, so it's kind of a oh, crap. Excuse me. Kind of a slow night. I do wanna share something. If you don't mind me doing a personal plug, Dennis. I don't usually do that, but if you don't object to it, I'll like to do a personal plug.
Oh, I guess so. Okay.
I mean, if you don't want me to, I won't do it. It's fine.
As long as you pay royalties, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
You're
So,
using the platform, you got to pay royalties.
so the reason I was actually I did this back in July and just kind of left it out there and didn't really think about it. But I published a book back in July. But the reason I thought about this is because I had misplaced this and my wife found this. So I have this, right? A lot of people have these, and I think personally, I think every master mason should get one of these when he's raised. And so this is just I mean it's a good one. Well, it's not gonna show up now. So this is the one you could order, and I had it since 2021. So it's the Masonic passport. Do you have one, Dennis?
No.
Did you ever do that? So just whenever you go to different lodges, they put their information.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's
I
cool.
think it's just a good way to encourage them to travel, right? And
Right.
so they put the
That's what it's
seal
for.
and what their officers and stuff on. Anyway, I liked it, but I always thought it was kind of, and I don't have an example. I'll get an example to show you sometime. But I think it's I mean it's the same. Every entry is the same. It's the same background, same stuff.
Is this going to be a plug or a 30-minute infomercial?
Oh my
Where are
gosh.
we going with this?
So anyway, I'll post a link. Anyway, back in
He's gonna
July,
he's gonna get on one of those walkers that did do it with no hands, and then get the hot woman on there.
just as a project, just a I
Yeah.
don't
What
know.
was it
I
that
had
you
a
made?
wild hair, but anyway, I created my own version of a Masonic passport, and I'll put a link here in the chat. So I got one that's coming just to kind of show as a proof, but I created my own version, and I don't like the Amazon entry because it doesn't show you all the stuff inside, but like instead of like the same generic background, it has a custom background for each one. Really, I just kind of, in my experience, is like, what would I really like to see? And so I feel like it's a lot more streamlined. There's a really, really fancy one out there floating around also on Amazon. I think it's just too much. I think it's like excessively fancy. Like you could tell, in my opinion, you could tell that they saw this as like, hey, I could really tune that up, and they went, in my opinion, like way overboard, like trying to make it. If you search for Masonic passports, you'll
So
probably come
it's the
across it.
one that I would.
Probably, I don't know, because I think it's. I hate to say gaudy, because I'm sure a brother made it.
Then I would have definitely bought it.
I think it's almost too much. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. Leave a
Well,
blank
cool.
page between the sills so they don't overlap. I so yeah, that's what I. So again, I wish I had thought to go ahead and have a copy. There is kind of a blank page, like it says like visit, like which lodge you're at, and then it has a spot for the seal. This is not the one I made. This is not the one I made. This is the one. The reason I didn't get my own version yet is because I'm still filling this one out. That's not probably a good reason, but I was just like, hey, I'll fill this one out and then I'll get my own. But
Yeah, that's pretty.
but anyway, so I'm
Wow.
just the only reason I'm even pitching this is because my wife found this one, and I was like, oh, you know what? I hadn't really thought about that, but I made that one in July. What is it now? September. So anyway, if anyone's interested in getting a Masonic passport, if you want to grab the one I made, I'd be very interested in knowing your thoughts. But I'm just pitching that out there. What's up, Charles Smith? But that's all. That's all, Dennis. That's all I had to
That's
say.
okay, because pretty soon we'll be plugging my book.
Well, your book's going to be a little more. This is like
Yeah, mine will
mine's
be
62 pages. I think yours will be a little bit more than that.
maybe, yeah.
How's
That'll
it?
that'll just be one thought.
Is that what you've been working on
Oh
in your
yeah,
downtime?
yeah,
Your book?
yeah. Since my mentor said it's time for you to write a book, I said okay,
How far
and I've
along
been
are you?
working on it. I'm about halfway through.
Oh wow. I've actually I've been thinking about mine a lot lately too. Like my real book. Not I don't I would never tell anybody I published Arthur because I made a passport book, right? But I've been thinking about the one I made because you made a comment. I think it was you because you type it on like Google Sheets or Microsoft Word or whatever. You're like, damn, I'm only like 20 pages in. Well, yeah, but
Right,
if you look at like your standard size book, 20 pages is probably closer to like 60 pages or something like that. So
right, right.
I don't know how many pages you should aim for in a Masonic book. This is like a research paper or something that's like Billy Hamilton's book or something. But like most Masonic books that I've read, I mean they're pretty good size, but they're pretty thin too.
Well,
So
I don't want mine to be too thin though. I just don't. Don't even go there. But girth matters.
if you say so,
That was so bad.
yeah, that
But
was.
no,
I'm
I
disappointed.
yeah, I took it to that next level that I shouldn't have taken it to. But I don't know. I think not that I want to have anything besides the morals and dogma, but I definitely want it to be large enough to be something that after they read it, they might be compelled to read it again because it was long enough that they got onto these other thoughts, and then later on they're thinking, you know what, I'd like to read that again.
Yeah,
Because that's just kind of my thinking. Because like the larger books like Morals and Dogma, and you can even compare it to the Bible, Morals and Dogma in the Bible, because they're so thick. There's so much information in there that you can't get it all. Even if you read the whole thing cover to cover, there's so much information in there you would not retain it all.
hmm
So I'd like for my book to, not equal those by any means, but I'd like for it to be something that you read it, you enjoy it, and then you think it pops in your mind something one day at lodge, and then you decide, you know what, I'm going to go and read that again on that one book,
yeah. I think
something
those are the
like
most
that.
useful ones that have like the chapters dedicated to like certain things. You're like, hey, I
Right,
wanna I wanna go back and follow up on that. Like something just kind of triggers it in their brain. Like, yeah, I'm gonna read back and
right.
see what Dennis Yates said about dues back in 2023. You'll be on the book right next
Well,
to Morals and
most of
Dogma.
my stuff isn't, about dues and stuff like. I ought to do one on that though.
Just to
I ought
really
to do that.
just to make everybody mad.
Well, just how to how to how to audit your lodge,
Yeah,
how to do an honest audit.
yeah.
That's all. Just
I
what you should be looking for.
maybe I should finish mine. I did say I was gonna write it like 6 years ago, so maybe it's time I got around to finishing mine too. Um, We got some comments here. Let's look here. Charles Smith says Friday was his late wife's birthday, and today was his son, so he's had an emotional weekend. Yeah, I've been following everything going on, Charles. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I'm
Devin
sorry.
Devin McLean says, "What do you think about Joseph Smith taking elements from Freemasonry to implement into Mormonism?" I'll tell you my thoughts very quickly because I don't think it'll take as long as Dennis because mine's pretty straightforward. Uh, I think Freemasonry borrowed a lot of ideas from other organizations, like maybe the mystery schools. You, definitely, there's lots of things we do in Freemasonry that predate what we would commonly believe was Freemasonry, right? I think that's just the way things progress. So I personally don't have a problem with it because if Mormonism is not Freemasonry, it's very different. But Freemasonry, I mean, we can't claim to have the copyright on our rituals or anything because not necessarily the rituals themselves. I'm not saying we're conducting EA degrees in Greece, but a lot of the aspects of our degrees have ancient precedents from what we know about like the mystery schools and
Right.
old similar organizations. So I think we'll see more of that in the future. I think it's just the way things progress over time. You make
Well, I haven't studied Mormonism enough to really give a solid answer on that.
yeah.
But I think that it's hard to, and I've heard that it's a lot of the stuff is similar.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's always hard to say that somebody stole something or took something from Freemasonry because and I'll use this as a reference. So in one of my papers, I talked about the fact that George Washington and all the forefathers, did they do the good that they did because they were Freemasons, or did Freemasonry attach themselves? Did Freemasonry attach itself to what they did just because they happened to be members? Because they were going to do that anyway. It was already in their DNA that they were going to conquer and do the things that they did. They just happened to be Freemasons. But I do believe that they did utilize their circles within Freemasonry to get it done. But I think it would have happened either way. So I kind of believe that. And again,
it's a chicken or the egg scenario.
Right. Yeah. So I understand there may be, similarities in the two, but I would never say that anyone took stuff from Freemasonry because Freemasonry took all of its stuff from everything else. Freemasonry is the shepherd's pie of the ancient mystery schools.
So Jason Rockenberg says his book is going to be, quote unquote, spreadsheets, the key to saving Freemasonry. So Jason's big on spreadsheets. I'm big on charts. I like charts. I'm currently making
I like the pie charts.
Oh, well, I'm making a pie chart right now. I'm making a pie chart of my favorite bars and a bar chart of my favorite pies.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Devin McLean, Morals and Dogma was supposed to be for his friends and associates mainly, and Pike took most of the information from other sources without footnotes or sources. Yeah. And that was something that was mentioned. I don't remember who mentioned it, but it was brought up at Masonicon.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I know that a lot of it came from different sources, and he didn't quote those sources because back then that wasn't the common thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how I write right now because I have this complete thought and I'll throw in this one part that came from somewhere else that ties that thought together. But the rest of the thought was mine. But what I'm saying is that he didn't write it just for his friends. He and 4 other brothers of the Scottish Rite were tasked with writing, rewriting the ritual, and he wrote Morals and Dogma because he felt like everyone should have a firm grasp on each level before they moved on. And if they didn't read and understand the true lessons within the degrees, then they had no business moving on to the next degree. Back, he didn't believe in the one day you're a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason. He didn't buy into that or drink that Kool-Aid. He believed that they needed this extra book of lessons that every person should read before going to each next to the next degree.
Hey, I have a question.
That's true. That's true. That it's written.
So you say he and four others, or was it four total? Anyway, that they rewrote the degrees, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
They were in French, and they had to be translated, and then once they were translated, then they were rewritten as well. In fact, Mackey was on that project as well, but Pike was the only one that worked through the project. The rest of them didn't contribute.
Does that include the first three Scottish Rite degrees, like the EA, Fieldcraft, and Masters? Like the Scottish Rite equivalent?
I don't think so. I think it was only the higher degrees.
I got you. Understood.
Yeah, 4 through 32.
Devin McLean also said, what was it? Oh, this is going back to what we were talking about, the Mormonism thing. I don't think of it as a bad thing either. There's universal teachings within it that can benefit everyone. And I think that's why you see these things being almost immortal, right? Like these concepts, like there. If you look at like the Dionysian artificers or the cult of Mithras, or there's another one I can't remember right off the top of my head. But if you look at some, or even like the Egyptian rites, if you look at some of the things that they practiced in the degrees, things that we know, right? Because they were secret too, but over something exists long enough, you get traces of what they did, right? A lot of things that they did that we know of are what we do now in Freemasonry. And so I agree. I think there's certain things that are universal, not even necessarily just the teachings, but the lessons that these things impart, the symbolism that it represents, that have persevered across cultures and across time, and will continue to do so.
Well, you can also look at, in reference, you can look at the Tree of Life. It was originally, Kabbalah was originally the mystery school of the Jewish faith.
Yeah.
And now you've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry that are attaching their own little ideals within the Tree of Life and creating their own little, structure of, illumination through the Tree of Life, except it's with their terms and with their thoughts and this and that, but they use the same structure of the Tree of Life and to make themselves look more valid, I guess. It kind of validates what they're doing.
And I mean, you can't really study Kabbalah unless you're Jewish anyway. So, I mean,
my man, I know who you're talking about.
No, I love him like as a brother, right? Like I love the guy, but
right.
I disagree with anyone that says that any kind of belief system is confined to one. Any kind of truth is confined to one belief system, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because it really
only a certain people are allowed to, or the true.
Because if you say like
keepers of the stone per se,
if you say you can't understand this unless you're this religion, then you're really what you're saying is this religion is superior to all the others. Even if you don't intentionally mean to say that, you're saying, hey, there's this divine truth, but you can't understand it unless you're this specific religion.
And you've taken all these steps within that religion to get there.
Yeah.
In this order.
Austin Berry says, wasn't Magnum Opus written first before Morals of Dogma?
Yes, it was. In fact, I have 2 copies. I'm thinking about putting one of those copies in the silent auction.
How old is it?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
Let me see. but it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite books. The whole reason I got it is because I wanted to see the difference between Morals and Dogma and Magnum Opus to see, what transpired in the two different. Um,
With all the
in,
Masonic books I've read, I have not read anything by Albert Pike at all whatsoever. Not even.
that's okay.
Well, I wanted to
You
wait
will
till
after the fall if you.
I wanted to wait. Yeah, I wanted to wait till I just got a
Yep.
shot. I didn't want to, because I know it goes into the degrees, and I didn't really want to spoil it for myself.
Well, it really Morals and Dogma doesn't discuss any ritual per se. Um, it's just a lot of theology.
Mm.
But yeah, I agree, and that's what I did. Um,
Oh, that's a fancy looking version. I like that.
when you get in front of
Yeah.
my camera here,
Is that a
it doesn't
skull?
work good
Is
when
that
I
a
there it is.
skull on the front?
Oh, there's no skulls in Freemasonry.
Well, I thought so too.
You
But I
mean right
see.
down there?
Yeah. Wow. Burn it. It's got a skull. You'll scare
Yeah.
all the boomers. No offense
Yeah,
to any boomers.
but that was the true reason why Pike um, wrote these was because he believed that the ritual itself should not be just a one and done. It should you do the ritual and then you should study and learn it and understand it before you get the next level.
Mhm.
That's why in some jurisdictions they do it that way. Like in Latin America, you don't just become a 30-second degree and overnight. It's something that takes years and years.
David McLean says, this is talking back about, again, the Mormonism thing.
Uh-huh.
Look at the story of the death and resurrection of Osiris that's been incorporated in various systems. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the story of
Yes.
Osiris, I mean, I'm not going to name any mainstream religions and call anybody out, but it's more or less the same story as the mainstream religions we have today. And there's other
Every
accounts
one
of
of
it
them
as
has
well.
a hero story.
Well, yeah, they all have a hero story, but specifically like a death and resurrection, which isn't uncommon. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's
Yeah.
only exclusive to one mainstream religion we have right now, but it's definitely a repeated story, right? This
Right.
death and resurrection, which is not just it's not just confined to religion. I mean, you see it in the mystery schools, so there's definitely something to it. Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, I that's what I love about Freemasonry is that it has opened my mind to reading about the ancient mystery schools and taking those deep dives that I may have never taken before. And that's what I'm so concerned about losing within Freemasonry. And I want to make sure that, we build upon that going forward because so many young members are joining with that expectation that they're wanting the same thing. And it took me 30 years to decide I wanted it.
Hmm.
But these young guys that are growing up in the information technology phase of our world, they already know that they're looking for that. They want to understand this stuff.
I remember being so nervous, not just when I went because my dad took me to the lodge to meet everybody the first time, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean I was nervous because I didn't know what was inside the building, even though it was in the town I grew up in and drove by it hundreds of times. But even sitting in my first lodge meeting, like being really nervous, like just not really knowing what to expect, and and people just being goofy,
Right.
and I realized like these guys don't take it seriously. I mean,
Right.
this is not what I thought it was, and we go so, and I've said this before, we go so far out of our way to, because people come in with these high expectations, like wide eyed and bushy tailed, and really expecting something marvelous, and we do everything in our power. It's like, oh no, we're very mundane here. Don't expect anything
Right.
marvelous. It's mundane. I had a literature teacher in college. Like that was the whole theme. is marvelous versus the mundane. Like we'd read books, and that was the contrast, like the marvelous versus the mundane. And so that's why I use that term so much today. Is like we come into the fraternity with these marvelous expectations, and we do everything to deliver mundane. It's almost like we don't want them to have these high expectations.
Mundane reality.
We don't want them to have these high expectations. So we kind of downplay ourselves.
Well, then we have to meet up to those expectations. Yeah. I was pretty fortunate that in McKinney, my teacher, he was the first person to introduce me to morals and dogma when I was, learning my work.
Yeah.
And he said, have you ever heard of this book? I said, no, I haven't. And he said, well, you really ought to get you a copy and start reading.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of lodge that I joined, was the kind of lodge that said, we love this stuff, and we expect you to love this stuff. That's what we're trying to get out of. That's what we're trying to draw out of you, is that part of you that just loves this stuff. And I'm very fortunate because it created high expectations for my Freemason.
I love that. Justin Hirschita says, how do you feel about brothers being on their cell phones when in lodge?
Oh, that pisses me off. I only do it if I'm putting in a date, and then I turn it right off and put it back. That's the only time.
I'll use it to check my calendar, and if I get messages, because I got a wife at home with 3 kids, right? So I don't know if it's an emergency till I check. So like if I get a message, I'll check just to be sure everything's fine, and I'll use it for my calendar. I know of one brother, and I love the guy to death, but he's on his phone the entire meeting, just like, it doesn't matter what office he's in. He's just sitting there looking at his phone. He's got like a Star Trek game or something that he plays. And I was like, why? Like, I'm glad you're here.
Why are you even here?
Exactly. Like, why? Why are you coming if you're just going to be on your phone? And he's the same one. He's the same one that brought up that point of order about the bylaws change back in January. But yeah, and so he just sits there on his phone. It's like, what are you hoping to accomplish, dude? Like, why are you here? Like, I enjoy his company, right? He's a good brother. But I just don't understand why anybody would do that. So to me, it's kind of a peeve, especially if I'm sitting in the East. Like, why are you on your phone the entire time? Like
right.
Like even if a lodge was actually providing the value it was promised, which is taking good men and making them better, you can never improve yourself if you have your nose in the phone the entire time that you're supposed to be learning something.
I don't even get on the phone when I'm having dinner with my family. I don't have the phone. I don't look at my phone when I'm at the table.
Oh.
I don't. I'm strict about that, and I don't want anybody else to do that while they're around me either. Mm-hmm. And so, if I'm that way with dinner, mm-hmm. How do you feel? Like, how do you think I'm going to be at lodge? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I agree. I don't get on the phone with my kids are eating with me. But yeah, I don't like to do it at lodge because I feel self-conscious about it. Like, I expect someone to call me out.
It's disrespectful.
I expect to be called out if I'm on my phone. Like, especially if I'm visiting a lodge. If I'm a guest, like if I'm on my phone, I expect them to call me out. Like, why are you on your phone? We don't do that here. It never happens.
Right.
But I think everyone just kind of expects it.
Right. Yeah, I don't look at my phone unless I'm actually putting in a date.
Yeah.
That's the only time.
Yeah, Monopoly Go, sports, Facebook, all things I've seen brothers playing in lodge. Yeah. Yeah, it like before the meeting I get, sure, if you're sitting there waiting on the lodge to open or something, sure. Whatever, it's your time. But when the gavel drops, I mean, there should be a certain degree of reverence for the sanctity of the meeting, even if it's just a boring business meeting, right? I think we've made everything so common. And this goes back to what I was saying. We made everything so common, and not just in the fraternity, but just in the world. Like I just remember, and I'm talking from personal experience, when I first visited the lodge before I joined, and I was introduced to the worshipful master was like, holy crap, this is a big deal. This guy's a big deal. I didn't realize like 90% of Masons were past masters at that point, right? And so it was a big deal to me. And sitting in lodge made me nervous because it was a big deal to me. It was like, because I couldn't even sit in lodge till I was a master Mason. It's like this is a big deal. This is important. We do big things in here. And the titles meant something at the time to me, because they were just so prestigious sounding, and I assumed it was elusive. But yeah, if you downplay everything, right, and just treat your meeting like a business meeting, and you sit on your phone the whole time, and everybody's a past master, and no one thinks it's a big deal, then I mean, why are you even in Freemasonry? Like, why are you even a Masonic lodge?
Yeah.
Like,
you're just shortchanging it for yourself.
If you think everything you do, if you think everything about the fraternity is so mundane and so unimportant, why the hell don't you just shut it down and turn it into a Lions Club or something? And I don't mean that to belittle the Lions Club, but Lions Club has no ritual, right? It's they vote and you're in. Congratulations, you're a Lion. There's no degrees. There's nothing to it. I'm a Lion. There's nothing wrong with the Lions Club, but I mean, if you just want everything to be, but if you take a lodge and if you strip away the ritual, and if you strip away the titles, and it looks and operates like a Lions Club, then why not just turn it into a Lions Club?
Right.
But if you, on the other hand, treat your lodge room like a sacred space, have some reverence for the meetings, provide actual value to the members, and take pride in your building, in your process, and actually care about who you let in, and have a process for that, then yeah, that's a Masonic lodge. That's what a Masonic lodge should act like.
I concur.
I'm looking here. Jason Rockenberg says he has his phone out while talking to Dennis to fact check everything he's saying. Yeah.
He needs to. Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Justin says it shows you don't care. In my opinion, it's disrespectful to the master. It is disrespectful. It's a disrespectful to everybody there.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's very rare that you'll see me on my phone before and after the meeting as well. Yeah. I'm usually in the moment with my brothers in the conversation, part of it until I get into the truck, and then I'll check and see what's going on, and then that's just how I roll.
Yeah. I've been known to go off to the side, like if during a meal or something, and just check my stuff before I go into a meeting, right? But I agree. Like if I'm at lodge, if I'm sitting down eating with my brothers, I should probably be there actually visiting with them. Otherwise, why am I even there that early, right? Because I'm not there for the chili dogs, right? So at least actually enjoy communicating with people. But I don't mind. That's
what the time is for.
I don't mind if someone's using their cell phone because of work or family issue, but that's about it. Yeah, I agree. Especially in lodge, it is a peeve of mine, and I have read off people before. There was one brother at one of my lodges, and every time I saw the guy during the meeting, he was sitting in the south, like sprawled out everywhere on his phone during a meeting, and I called him out, and he hadn't showed back up. But
I
was a nice enough guy, but no loss. If that's as serious as you take it, why are you showing up?
To be honest with you, even if it's for work, if work is that important, if it's that much of an emergency, maybe you need to get out of lodge and go tend to it outside of lodge.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, there are very few jobs that are that important that you have to answer immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Very few jobs.
Well, it comes back to
if that's the case, if that's the case, then maybe you need to excuse yourself from the lodge and go outside and deal with that situation, and then come back into lodge.
Well, I would say that applies not just to the cable tow actually, but also 24-inch gauge. Right? Like there's a time for things, and you have to you have to set those boundaries. Like I send an email out to parents every Friday before I leave work. Right, I'm a teacher, so I send a progress report out to all the parents. Like it's a few buttons and it sends a mass email to everybody, and they'll respond back. Right, and so if I'm still at work, I'll respond. But once I'm out of work, I don't look at it again until Monday or in this case Tuesday because we're off for Labor Day. Like
Yeah.
like when I'm home, I'm doing home stuff.
It's kind of, to be honest, it's kind of inappropriate to discuss work outside of work.
Well, yeah, if I'm emailing
To
a
a
teacher,
certain degree,
well,
especially if it's a different gender.
if I'm emailing anybody and it's not their work hours, it's not reasonable for me to expect an immediate response or any kind of response until I know they're back at work.
Right.
And even then, within reason, like I don't expect them the first day when they come in on Monday morning to respond to my email. But like if an entire workday goes by and they haven't responded, I'd probably be concerned then. But yeah, definitely
Right.
you have to, and so many of us are guilty of this. Like we have to understand, like when we're not at work, that even if you have your own business, and I think it's especially important if you have your own business, you have to understand when you're not at work, you're not working, right? Like you have to separate yourself. You have to set aside time, even if it's just time at lodge, right? You have to set aside that time where you're not thinking about it. It's a
Right.
mental health thing.
Right. Well, I do have my own business. I've got a few, and I don't do that in the middle of the lodge. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them is actually a Masonic type business, and I do not do it inside a lodge.
Yeah, there's a time and place.
Yep. Going to that thought that you're talking about a cable tow. What's interesting is how so many people take that as a literal sense in in your time and your availability, but really that has to do with your mind and what you're allowing your mind to engage in. So that's exactly right. That if you're man, I hate. I guess I shouldn't have gone into this so much on the line, but if you decide the length of your cable tow, period. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just put it that way. I can't go deep into what I was wanting to say, but you decide the length, and it's up to you to set your boundaries in life, and you determine what's important to you, what your priorities are. And if you say, well, my priority is my job, then don't do your job inside the lodge. Do your job outside of the lodge.
Yeah,
That's all I got to say.
I agree. I agree. Cool, man. We got any other thoughts you want to add? I think we should probably wrap it up.
We've got a summit coming up.
Oh
We're
yeah,
into September now.
12 days. I
Yeah.
believe.
Oh,
I believe I
yeah.
was looking at that earlier. Let's see here. 12 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe I've been thinking about it for the last several weeks.
I
Um,
Go ahead.
and I had a brother. In fact, I'm going to put it on Facebook. I have a brother that donated the money for a ticket for somebody if they are unable to afford a ticket
Nice.
but want to go. And so I'm going to announce that on Facebook and see if there's a brother out there that just simply really cannot afford it. And I hope that if whoever it is that takes advantage of it really is in tougher times to where they wouldn't be able to normally afford it.
They still have to cover
Because
their hotel, right?
right, right. But still, I would hope that it really is a blessing to somebody and not just somebody trying to do it on the cheap.
Yeah.
Kind of like buying a cheap endowment when they could, pay their dues and help the lodge.
Well, if they take it, they better. And I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but they better show up if they're gonna accept that. Here that is, that'd be pretty crappy.
Right.
But yeah, yeah. I was gonna mention it, but you took the wind out of my sails. So thanks.
Mention what? The
The
summit?
summit, yeah.
Do it. Do it. I just touched on a
Oh, Well, we've been. I was just gonna say. Have you been looking at the sales? We've been selling quite a few tickets lately, but
Yeah, I know. Um, I got an agenda. I started an agenda.
you've always had an agenda, Dennis.
You're right. Everything I do has purpose. There is intent in everything I do, and that's a fact.
Jack.
That is a fact. If you think that I'm a man of ulterior motives, you're absolutely correct. I'm serious about my life.
But yeah, the summit is like I
But
said. It's 12. Let me double check that actually. It's 12 days, 10 hours, 12 days away. And so if you haven't got your ticket yet, if you're
let
waiting
me
to see how things are looking financially, I think you should have a pretty good idea at this point how things are looking financially. So if you can make it, be there. It's going to be awesome. That's what I was going to say.
I had this out to you, and I probably should have.
Do
Here's the
what?
line.
You got choppy. What'd you say?
I haven't get I haven't sent this to you, and I probably should have. But here's the lineup. Out of the gate, we will have Chris Williams, and he is speaking on there is no Texas without Freemasonry,
I
but
know
it's a
that
little
guy.
bit more than just that.
I know that guy.
Do what?
I know that
You
guy.
do. We have Right Worshipful Lucas Minton, from the Grand Senior Deacon from the Grand Lodge of Arkansas,
I know that guy.
who is next, and then Bradley Cohanky, who is the past Grand Order for the Grand Lodge of Texas, as well as a past personal representative for San Antonio Valley and another author. Oh, Chris Williams is an author and of several books.
Mm-hmm.
Brad's on his second one. Now, the cool thing about Brad's talk is that his talk is on the ancient mystery schools, because that's where all the leaders came from, was the ancient mystery schools. And the cool thing about it, though, is that this is the very last time he's going to speak about this in public, because he's fixing to release a book on the ancient mystery schools. So
That's going to be a must-have.
so yes, if you want to get it firsthand from the author, this is your opportunity. And it's an awesome talk. I've and he's changed it, massaged it. He's done a lot of work on it. But the different times that I've heard it was an awesome discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Brother Robert Park, who is one of our Grand Lodge lawyers, and also one of the deepest and most educated minds in true esoteric Freemasonry, as well as other mystery schools as well. He went to college. It's kind of interesting. He went to college, and his degree was going to be in something like theology and philosophy or whatever, and he ended up becoming a lawyer. But he's always been interested in the development of life and the religions within it. And so he is really one of the smartest men I've ever met in regards to topics that involve a deep dive for Freemasonry.
Can I add something real quick before we move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's going to be a very rare event that's going to occur also at MasonicCon that we haven't really advertised, and that is after
Masonicon.
Masonic Summit. I'm sorry, it's like the Masonic Summit. There's going to be a very rare event at the Masonic Summit, and that is after the Lexington and everything, where we're off to our own devices. In all likelihood, there will be a what is it when you have a indestructible will against a unmovable force. There will probably be a debate between Brother Robert Park and Kyle Walkwest, and so
shoot, Kyle's our keynote speaker, but I'm going to tell you, he's a smart man. I love Kyle. He knows it, but he's going to lose to Robert. I'm sorry.
So if you want to see this rare, unprecedented event, and you want to say you were there for it,
yes. There's only one person that I've ever met with a memory like Jim Rumsey, and that's Robert Park. And Robert Park, it's not only a memory in historical facts. It's a memory in any type of esoteric nature, business wise. I mean, this man is brilliant. I love Robert. I'm very honored to be able to call him one of my closest friends. And then we'll break for lunch, and then after that, we'll kick it off with Right Worshipful Steve Omeger, the Deputy Grand Master of New Mexico, and his discussion is going to be keep it simple, stupid on Freemasonry, and get back to the basics. That's what his talk is about. And Right Worshipful Jim Rumsey is after him, and then Kyle. Then after that, we will break for dinner for a few minutes, unless you want to stick around and talk with Kyle. Every one of these, I have built in 15 minutes for discussion after the talk, so that people can ask questions about the talk if they want to, or go use the restroom, whatever. But every one of these has 15 minutes built in for after the discussion. Now, Kyle, he's the keynote speaker, and so he's last. But there's a bigger cushion there before dinner, so that there's really time to discuss. Number one, his discussion is going to take a good hour at least, and so I think that a good 30 to 45 minute discussion period afterwards is going to be what's needed for his, because he's going to get really deep into some data from Grand Lodge and what we need to look at and where we need to go from here. So it's really
Are we going to do
going
a
to be
panel?
stuff.
Do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. At some point, I haven't figured out when. I think it will probably be after the master's degree. We'll sit down and do that for a few minutes
Where will we do that at, though?
at the hotel
Okay.
while everybody's coming in and
That'll be a fun
doing
panel. Yeah, I'm down for that. That'll be a fun
let everybody
panel.
get a rum of scotch in their hand, and then we'll sit down and man, I'd like to do it live, but we may need to just record it instead. That way we can keep each other safe. We need to protect each other.
I can pixelate all the scotches and stuff. So.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing is that, our photographer, we have a professional photographer coming in, and that's the one thing you can be assured of if you're coming to the summit, is that there won't be these shady pictures of people with drinks in their hands. Any picture is going to be of the chest up if you got a drink or whatever. You won't have to worry about that being publicized. We don't believe in just throwing it in people's face that we do like to have libations.
Yeah. So Justin, the Master Mason degree on the Lexington, it's not an outdoor degree. They have a auditorium inside the Lexington, and I mean that's what they do it every year, right? But they didn't do it in there for any specific reason last year, did they?
But we are going on the flight deck to take a picture of all the brothers beforehand. I was talking to Brother Mike King about that earlier this week, and he's excited to make sure that happens as well, to make sure that everybody gets channeled up there to make it happen, see how many brothers we can get lined up in front of all those planes on the flight deck of the USS Lexington. That'll just be awesome.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's indoors in the auditorium, the haunted auditorium. But yeah, it's a good time.
Those auditoriums were in those places for schools of instruction and stuff like that, and it's where they would talk about their plans when they're going to battle and stuff like that. That's what the auditorium was originally, created for. But thanks to Oso Naval Lodge, they and now past brother Tommy Wimberly, thanks to them, mostly Wimberly, we've been able to use it for the last 15 years of the 30 years that it's been there for this degree. It's a Texas tradition, and but like I said, Tommy Wimberly, he passed a few months ago, a couple of months ago,
Hmm.
and he won't be joining us this time. But also Naval Lodge supports it, and then we've got the Knights of Mecca degree team coming down from Dallas to perform the degree, and the candidate is a real candidate, and he's a member of. I think this one will come from Oso Lodge. I think they've got somebody that'll be ready, and they'll be made a master mason on the ship. But the Knights of Mecca, they do it all in costume. So when we do the pictures above deck, we're going to have some of them in the tuxedos and some of them in the costumes
Hmm.
up on the flight deck for the degree, because they feel like that's the most appropriate version to present to people is the tuxedos in the beginning and costumes in the end. That's how they feel like it should be.
And brother Mickey Allen will be there, and he is a Lexington alumni. So he was
Yes,
he
I
was
I was actually there. Yeah,
what was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Yeah.
Yep, I saw him raised. Yeah.
So he'll be there, and it's gonna be awesome. There's just no other way to
In
put it.
fact, if y'all don't know it, Mickey is a forger. He forges things out of iron and steel um, in his garage, and he is making a special um, instrument, I'll say, that's going to go in the silent auction
Hmm.
for everybody to bid on. I can't wait. I hope I get it. I'm going to throw in $500 right there on top. Boom. I want it. I want it. But
I think your wife would be
yeah. So
happy if
that
you brought that home. Where are you gonna
shoot,
put
it'll go
that?
right. It'll go right above my bed.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an awesome thing, and he's never done it before. This is a first, and he did it specifically for our event at our request, and and then and he's been working on different committee after committee for Grand Lodge for years, because he's just an incredibly intelligent human being, and so he's our keynote speaker. Then after that, during the festive board, we're going to have most worshipful uh, Thomas Shank, who is the most worshipful Grand Master of New Mexico, and he's going to be our speaker during the festive board.
Mhm.
This is just really. I would venture to say it's probably the
Say
it
it.
is one of
Say
one of
it.
the most impactful lineups of speakers that I've ever seen in Freemasonry.
Yeah.
It really is. These people are boots on the ground. They do it day in and day out. They live Freemasonry. They love Freemasonry, and they want to share that with you.
I mean, we got speakers and guests, not just from Texas, but people from Arkansas, New Mexico. I think there's going to be some people from Mexico,
And Louisiana.
in Louisiana, and I think Oklahoma. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
um. Supposedly there's one brother from Seattle is asking about it. So
Yeah,
we
there may be a few brothers from Seattle coming down as well.
yeah. So I mean, this is going to be it's huge. It's huge, and like we've been saying it for a year, right? So I feels like it's normal for people to want to pump up their own events, right? But I'm not. We're not saying it just to pump it up. I mean, it's going to be huge. This is going to be a big deal, and so if you can afford it, be there, because
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah.
legendary.
Yeah, this is one that you'll definitely, if you've never gone down and done it before, this is one that you will never forget. It's one of those ones that you'll think, I sure am glad I was there for that event. That was right on the money.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, we've been wrapping up for a half an hour now, so
Well, you get me talking about my favorite people and my favorite thing, and that's going to happen.
David Lawson's asking, is this going to be an annual event? Yes, but it won't necessarily be in Texas every time.
Yeah, in fact, we're looking at either New Mexico or Arkansas for next year.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason why is because we're wanting to take Freemasonry to areas where there's not this kind of opportunity readily available.
Well, so frankly, if the majority of our tickets come from Arkansas, where should we probably have our next summit at?
Right,
Arkansas, because there's obviously a big demand there. That's not to call out Arkansas, but just not getting filled there. The demand. So that's probably where we should take it next time.
have 10 brothers. We have 10 brothers that are coming down from Arkansas to see this. Mm-hmm. They're so excited about it. And 4 from Louisiana already that I know of, and then about the same in New Mexico. That's just awesome, man. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
but yeah, we do plan on this being an annual event. But this is really going to be the flagship event that you'll always want to say you were at that first one, because it's going to be very difficult for us to top this, but we will. But it's going to be very difficult for us to top this going forward.
But we will.
Oh yeah.
But we will.
Oh yeah, because it's already churning in my head.
Yeah.
As long as I don't get divorced before then.
It'll be like the Antique Roadshow, but with Freemasons. It'll be the Masonic Improvement Roadshow.
We'll be the pickers. We'll be American pickers.
Yeah.
We'll go to all these lodges and say, "Oh, you don't need that. How much for that?"
All right. That's all. Dang, we had 17 current viewers right now. We're doing good.
Keep it between the points, brothers.
Yep.
We love you. Thank you for spending your time with us. And we hope that you have a wonderful Labor Day,
mm-hmm.
and that you don't get thunderstormed out. I used to go camping every Labor Day before school started, and we would always get a thunderstorm that day. Every time.
I would love a thunderstorm right now.
I know. Everybody wants one.
It was overcast earlier, and I thought it was going to rain, but it never did. So nature's being a tease.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, we're still growing dry sprouts right now.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
Well, brothers, we appreciate you. Thank you. And without y'all, we wouldn't have this show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Catch you later.